I was always interested in filmmaking. Like as a child, my parents let me film things from a really young age. They would give me this huge VHS video camera.
Hey, look at the camera, say something, sing something.
Way down upon the Swanee River.
That's good, that's good, that's good.
My grandmother's 60th birthday party, I'm filming it. Like, it was a surprise party for her. Everything is from the point of view of this child, and I have the camera, and I'm filming her walk in, and this, like, ecstatic look on her face. She sees all her friends, and I'm walking around, you're filming knees, and like, but I feel like my parents trusting me with the camera gave me trust in myself. My dad was always filming. He filmed me from the time I was born till I was, I don't know if it was 1 or 2, but like, I don't want to say weekly, but maybe monthly, just laying there, doing nothing. But as a kid, we also watched those like reels. We would put them and project them on the wall, and I was always into like that, not nostalgia, I guess it is kind of nostalgia, but being sentimental. Like, I was always aware of the fact that I'm growing up and like time is passing and like how sacred life is, I guess. I also had a very strong connection with adults from a young age. They would talk to me, tell me things. I always babysat. People that I babysat for always sort of ended up telling me their life story, which is kind of like from like the age of 9. So that's kind of unusual. But my great-grandmothers, I think, had a big impact. One of them was from the Ukraine, and she lived to be 100. She would sing me Russian songs, and she had this thick accent, and she was a little bubby. We called her Bubby. I mean, but she was elegant too. And then my other great-grandmother, who we saw a lot, she was born in Chicago. My freshman year, during spring break, I wanted to go to her apartment and ask her questions about her life, but we didn't bring the camera, so I didn't interview her. And I remember her like getting out this old flag that my mom has here and telling us the story behind it. I have no idea what the story was. Unfortunately, she passed away about a month later. So I had the thought, I had the opportunity, and I didn't follow through. I will always regret that, and it really motivates me to do what I do today. My great-grandfather, he was a custom furniture maker. All the furniture in my mom's house here basically is from either my grandfather's generation or my great-grandfather's generation, and they built these things like they were craftsmen. Just from knowing that gave me a sense of like, you can do something different with your life. And my other grandfather, by the way, was like a salesman. So I feel like I got that maybe from him, like just being able to be genuine with people, but also sell them something. So that was like my foundation. And then my dad also, I mean, he's a lawyer, but he always worked for himself, and he never worked for a firm. He actually was always talking about how, like, why would you work for someone else? Like, you gotta do your own thing kind of thing. So I feel like I was encouraged from a young age to do my own thing. The idea of having a boss, like, almost never occurred to me. When I was growing up, my mom also had her own business that she had with her friend Joan out of our basement and Joan's basement. And I think that really also showed me that you could be a mom, you could have a business that worked around your lifestyle. So it was really an example of how to be an active woman in the world. And my grandmother has always been very strong about women having their own money, have their own strength and power, and do things that are meaningful to them. I wanted to be an actor since I was 3, and starting at 9, I started studying at Piven Theater. Amazing, totally transformed my life, taught me to be a better person. In 6th grade, maybe, we had to interview an immigrant for a project, and I interviewed my friend's mom, who's from Colombia, and I think it just sparked something that was like, I love hearing people tell me their stories. And so in high school, I had to do a project on the meaning of life. It was for an AP Great Books class, and my friend and I decided to make a documentary. We were at the time tutors at this after-school program in Rogers Park.
Here we are at Family Matters, which is on the north side of Chicago, and we're about to go in and do some tutoring and do some...
Hi. And we went there with the camera one day and like asked the kids, like, what is the meaning of life? And we just got all these great answers.
I don't know.
Claudia, what is the meaning of life?
Is that a tricky question?
I think the answer is meaning of life is sometimes happy and sometimes sad and sometimes confusing.
We asked people on the street.
The meaning of life, I'm not certain to, but from what I understand, the answer is 42.
We would be driving and we'd roll in the window and be like, what's the meaning of life? And get answers. Like, we just did all kinds of stuff.
You haven't figured that one out yet?
Filming?
And then in college at NYU, we did a project called the Addiction Project. Steve Wong, who was my director for that, he also heavily influenced and helped direct the Laramie Project. We interviewed people from all walks of life about addiction. I went to the Partnership for Drug-Free America. I interviewed a hypnotist. I interviewed an addict. I interviewed all these kinds of different people. And then we wrote a play based on those interviews and played the characters that we'd interviewed. That was a great interview experience. And then graduated college, still planning to be an actor. I had gone to Argentina and learned about the Dirty War, which is a terrible dictatorship that happened in the late 70s in Argentina, where at least 30,000 people were kidnapped, tortured, and killed in Argentina. That was in 2000 that I went there. 2001, September 11th happens. I really was deeply affected by that, like many people, but I had just been living there, and I knew so many people there, and I was so devastated and shocked, and moved back 3 weeks after it happened, moved back to New York, because I just had to be there. And I started filming everything. And that was partially because I was really kind of in a dark place and needed to film to make sense of my world, and partially because I was practicing to be a filmmaker. I didn't necessarily know that's what I was doing at the time. And that was the beginning of a project that never actually finished, but I did meet my husband through that. And I also ended up, after meeting my husband, going to Argentina and interviewing mothers that disappeared. And that was probably, those are the hardest interviews. I mean, I feel like any other interview I ever do, nothing compared to interviewing people whose children have been taken from them really young, and there's never been a resolution about it. I did also start studying directing at Second City and started teaching at Second City as part of the directing program. So it gave me a lot of confidence, and it was super fun. But there came a point where I realized acting and that whole career path was not making me happy in my early 20s. It's such a hard path. You have to want it so much more than you want anything else. And I just wasn't there. It wasn't really sparking my soul. Like, it didn't feel like the calling that this does. I got married in 2004. I was temping. I was teaching at PIV and I was teaching at Second City. I was sort of piecemealing a life, and it was very all over the place and scattered and stressful. And I wanted something different. I had this amazing Jungian therapist, and I had a lot of dreams, and through our dream analysis, it came to me like to start this business. And it was totally in therapy, and I almost think that it was the therapist who was like, I think you should do this business where you interview old people. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a really interesting idea. Let me sit on that. And I totally loved it, loved the idea. And I kind of was like, oh, hello, I've thought about doing this with other members of my family. I have my grandmothers here. I lost this opportunity with so many other relatives. Let me try this out. I sort of bought the equipment. I still have the list of how much my first equipment cost me. So I was like, I'm buying this equipment because I'm going to do this business. I had done an editing internship at a commercial editing house in Chicago, Outsider. Learned a lot from them. I was also an actor in an independent film or two, and every time I was with on set, I would talk to the crew, I would learn camera techniques, I would ask them things.
No, honey, we need to redecorate.
Yeah, well then, we're gonna need some help.
My mom's father and mother provided, besides basically paying for my college, provided me with some money that allowed me to buy my equipment and start my business. So of course, I'm hugely grateful. My grandmother was still alive when I started my business, and she was one of the people I first interviewed in a huge way as a thank you for putting me in this position to be able to do this. And my grandfather, what he gave me was that he was always so proud of me. And he always told me that. Whenever we would talk on the phone, I'm so proud of you. I believe in you. You can do whatever you want. I love you so much. He was just sweet. And he always told me that stuff. And I remember it. And following my grandma Nora around for a week to the bank, to buy orange juice, to town hall meetings, was my first introduction to really getting comfortable shadowing someone in their life. And she was a great first try on that because she's so social and fun and vibrant and beautiful, and people just respond to her. And while a part of me wishes that I had been conscious enough to interview both of my grandfathers while they were still alive, I know that all of my family has been proud of me and has encouraged me to be a creative person my whole life. I think everybody needs people to believe in them. So I had bought the equipment, I had taught myself how to use my camera, I chose my business name, I had to create a website, all these things I was doing at the same time as I was working on my grandmother's projects. And I spent basically almost a year doing their films, learning how to edit. I really wanted to do it right. I had a screening at the Wilmette Library. One of my friends I've known since first grade, her mom came to support me just to see it, and she was so moved by it that she hired me to do her parents' story, and that was wonderful. I think she may have been my first paying customer outside of my family, because actually I will say my bubby did pay me something to do her story. She invested in my business too. Told everyone I met about it, gave out my card everywhere. I just had a lot of luck, I feel like, and a lot of just good fortune and the network sort of working for me. I think I show up really as myself, and so it leads people to do the same. Mostly in my interviews, people forget that they're being filmed, or at least it becomes okay, yes, that's happening, but really I'm just telling you this stuff because you're interested and I want to tell you it. The presence of somebody doing this work is really important. It comes from my acting training, really. I remember my high school acting teacher, I think one day we got to class and she had a box outside the door, and she was like, anything that you're worrying about, any tests you have to take, anything that's bothering you at home, anything that's going on in your relationships, put it in this box, and it's not coming into this room because we're here to do some other work.
As important as the business aspect is the human aspect of this. Getting the subject of the film to have a level of comfort and trust to be able to really open up. She engages the subjects of the story, and then they'll engage anyone who's watching them.
She's able to find little moments and little expressions and follows those threads to pull out more of who the person really is and to get information that wouldn't come from just a standard set of questions.
I found her very warm, engaging, inviting. She had a presence with me, and I think I trusted that she would honor everything that we were saying to each other. We connected right away, she and I. Her as an authentic person, really wanting to engage in the life of other people is something inherent within her. I think that would be her intention.
I felt we could be honest, we could be open, that I felt comfortable. I felt she cared about me.
I love the questions that are hard to answer. I like hard questions. I like questions about values. I like questions about meaning. I love to watch people grapple with those hard questions. And then it's all about how you edit it, putting it together in such a way that the person's presence is felt when somebody watches the movie.
It's a lot more like a sculpture than it is like a painting. It's kind of buried in the middle and you're just chipping away at the edges, and then the more you chip away, the more you're finding where the story is inside of all that.
In 2009, when we found out we were going to be parents, I realized that I needed some help. I had some huge projects in the works in the editing room, and the long hours that it takes to edit that I had been putting in for the past 5 years, I knew I was not going to be able to do anymore. Kelly, one of my dear friends, was working for me at the time, and she helped me to find the most amazing editor I could have hoped for, J.J. Evans. He was my intern for a good 6 months, And he completed all of the projects that I needed to get done during my pregnancy. I always say way better than I probably could have. And he has taught me so much about what's possible in editing. He has a gift for storytelling. He takes all of the millions of hours, it feels like sometimes, of interviews and makes them into beautiful, heartfelt, loving stories that I know that my clients treasure. These past years could not even have been possible without my husband Nico by my side, helping me, watching movies late at night to help me get them just right, and being an incredible support system for me. Ever since Maya's been born, he's also been an amazing partner and father. I love knowing that I can go off and do my work around the country and Maya is with her dad, who is devoted, loving, and they have so much fun together. So I've worked over time with lots of different families of all walks of life. I would say, and one of the things I love about what I do is that, you can be a millionaire and you can have a cousin in a trailer park and that's a family. And I think that's pretty interesting. Over time, I kind of noticed that a lot of the people that were hiring me were entrepreneurs or business owners of some kind, but often family businesses. So in the past few years, I've really made a transition in my own mind to sort of focusing on family businesses and helping them with the challenges of celebrating their businesses, keeping the family connected to the business, keeping the family connected to each other, and that's really a special thing to be a part of.
We were getting ready to celebrate the 150th year of American Hotel Register, and I just had this aha moment, and I said, we have to use this film.
We showed it to our vice president of sales, and he loved it. And he said, we've got to put this in, and we need something like this to jazz up the dinner and kind of be a highlight.
There were 1,000 people there.
To get in that room and be with all those people, that was like a highlight, I feel like, of this whole 10 years, of just like, oh my gosh, there's all these people watching this. It's so cool. It's like a premiere. It's this awesome celebration, and it was really the highlight of the night. I mean, I think the most important thing is the middle word, is the connections. Yes, legacy is important, but to me it's about connective legacy and what keeps you feeling like you are tied to a family. What are the true connections? Who are your deep connections? But I think we're all in a process of discovering who we really are, why we're here. I think that every person you meet and every connection you make is happening for some reason. So I really am emphasizing the connections and the potential for this being very healing for the individuals or the family as a whole, and also for deeper relationships to grow out of a process. I'm proud of the fact that I've taken something that was nothing and made something with it, and I'm proud that I have been a part of so many people's stories. I guess I sort of feel my grandfather's pride, like I feel him being proud of me, and I feel like his pride in me drove me to do all this. From just my own experience, getting to be around a vast array of people and experiences and lives is awesome. And I also really do love exploring the important questions of life. I've been blessed with really amazing clients who have valued what I do, and I've survived these 10 years, and I don't feel like I've survived. I've really thrived, and I have a good life, and I feel like I'm really doing things that help people. I learn so much from everyone I meet. I think it's just a blessing to do this work.